Okay.
So Tamara, you've been interviewing people and you've been trying to find out about mosquitoes, the genetically modified mosquitoes. I want to find out briefly what your background is.
I am a news producer from New York City, and I found out about this story through an NPR article that gave it about 15 seconds as the innovative technology of 2011. It was Wired decided that this mosquito was the #1 innovative technology of 2011, and they did a quick blurb about it, and I thought that it was fascinating that a new engineered mosquito could be such a revolutionary thing. And as I started to dig, I found out that they were going to release these Franken mosquitoes in Key West.
And when was this?
This was in December. This was in the middle of December.
So that's fairly recent.
Yes.
Yeah. So you've been working on this since December.
Yes, about 6 months now.
And you've been interviewing different people.
I've interviewed everyone from the Key West Mosquito Board, the Key West Mosquito Patrol. I've interviewed a professor on biotechnology, which is kind of an emerging field from Vancouver, BC.
Mm-hmm.
I interviewed the biopolicy director of Friends of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
I also interviewed the CEO of Oxitec, Luke Alfie, their chief scientist and engineer and founder, as well as just citizens around Key West.
So you've really done a lot of gumshoe work.
Mm-hmm.
And what makes me very curious, you see, because you were asking me questions
Mm-hmm.
about the mosquitoes, and in the brief conversations that we've had before you started interviewing me, I found out that you knew a whole lot of stuff that I didn't know. And you've been uncovering things that have actually personally shocked you. And I
Yes.
know that, reporters are generally supposed to be non-objective, but we decided that we would change things because you're part of the discovery process just like I was. So what are you finding?
Well, I found many interesting things. One of the things that I found was that this release was happening without any citizens' involvement. And that's what really got me involved. That's what made me come down here immediately and start asking. In fact, I stood around the cemetery one day and asked everyone who passed by if they'd heard about it. And in January, 9 or 10 people had not heard it. So that was one of the shocking things that I found. And I'm big on, well, people need to know. And especially,
What was their reaction to it?
most people were shocked.
Mm-hmm.
And then a few people, basically are for getting rid of mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And that was one of the thin lines that I was treading was it's really hard to say getting rid of mosquitoes is bad.
Yeah.
Especially as someone who, I don't want to be bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all for protection. I'm all for, safety and health. But this was something that I thought if you're going to be a part of an experiment or part of a trial, well, you should definitely know about it.
You heard about the Dalai Lama? He was interviewed once. What do you think about mosquitoes? And he said, well, the first time it bites me, I'll let it have a little bit of my blood. The second time I go, and the third time I go.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Patience is a virtue.
So now you've been interviewing. Now tell me the highlights of what you've discovered about Oxitec.
Oxitec is a very interesting company. They are groundbreaking in vector control. They do a good job with that. The business model I don't approve of.
Are you against genetically modified mosquitoes or insects?
I don't think there's enough information yet.
Uh-huh.
I think that's my stance, is that I'm not against something that could possibly be beneficial, but there's not enough conclusive evidence yet to say that this is the right way to proceed.
So going back to Oxitec
Mm-hmm.
and what you're discovering.
I've discovered that Oxitec does do great research. And they've produced several good. I think the worm that they produced for agricultural means.
It's a bollworm, wasn't it, or
Bollworm,
something?
I think.
Yeah.
That has had good results, but it doesn't mean that everything that they produce is going to be the same. Their business model I've not approved with so much as the release in Malaysia without telling the citizens, doing it 3 months prior to giving residents any knowledge of it. I don't think that that is good business ethics. However, I have talked with the chief engineer and the CEO, and both of them, they're good scientists, and
they're charming, aren't they?
They're very charming.
Yes.
So I would hate to, until they give us conclusive evidence about this, make any assumptions about their work. It's just, however, there's no
But you were
results.
finding a disturbing pattern of non-disclosure and also not working with the scientific community from some of the scientists that are frustrated by them. Can you talk about some of them?
Yes,
Yeah.
all of their work is patented, and patented means that they do not have to disclose any of their results. Therefore, anything that they tell us is basically, it's not peer-reviewed. It is whatever conclusive evidence they come up with based on their views of if it was successful or not is what we have to go off of. And any scientist will tell you that that's not a
good model.
Yes.
It's not a good precedence to
Exactly.
set. Yeah.
Everything has to be peer reviewed, just like that's why we have the FDA that looks at medicine. You know, they have to have so many tests and consecutively conclusive results by multiple different agencies, so that we know that this is a standardized operation, which right now it's not a standardized operation. It's only Oxytec.
Now, you've met the people from the Mosquito Control Board, and I think that just like I was mentioning when I was being interviewed by you, these are very nice people.
These are very good people too.
Yeah.
You know, they believe in what they're doing. They believe that they are helping the public, and they are. I mean, in my visits down here, one of the things that I notice, and that the people that I'm with notice, is that there aren't many mosquitoes. They are doing a very good job with controlling them at this moment. And so the question is, why now? Why Key West? Why try something new that's...
Go back.
Why try something new when the system's not broken? And why throw a experiment in the mix, as opposed to mosquito control has good money to spend on something once it's proven? Why do this trial here? Is there not another place that actually has dengue that they might be able to get a better gauge on if this type of mosquito works?
Have you asked them the questions? If they were working on this for over a year and they were planning to do this, that doesn't mean that you're studying to do it. And when you're planning to do it, means that you mean to do it. And the only reason why it hasn't been done is that the regulatory agencies haven't given them the go-ahead.
They don't have responsibility.
Yeah, but have you understood why this agency that is so good at being so upfront about educating us about the mosquitoes in other ways has been so secretive about their work with Oxytec and not letting us know? It wasn't until the story broke that we knew about this.
Yeah, my understanding from Michael Doyle, the director of the Mosquito Control, said that public education, they were doing public education, and that no one first was interested. Then second, when they kind of pulled back on educating people on what they were planning on doing, was they wanted to decide what
people weren't educated, interested in being educated about mosquitoes here? Is that what he's saying?
That was one of his answers. The second was that they didn't have a conclusive area with that they were going to do the release. So if they went door to door and told people that this was going to be happening in their neighborhood, and then decide to change
these are some 80s Egyptian mosquitoes that are coming to visit.
I know, they're sending them after me
Reinforcements.
for doing all this, throwing a loophole in their work. But they said, you know, if they go out and they tell people neighborhood by neighborhood that they're going to be doing it, and then they change, well, then they have, you know, then they basically have to go back and tell people that it's not going to happen, and they've caused, you know, they've upset a community that something's not going to happen in. And I mean, to me, Key West is so small. If you send 5 million mosquitoes out around the cemetery, it's probably going to reach the whole island.
Yeah.
I mean, the control areas, it's a very interesting situation to me. I don't understand that science behind it, but logically to me, I think if you set out a swarm of mosquitoes, they're going to reach every point in the island.
Yes.
So it's not a big island.
Yes, especially when the wind blows, you get it all the way up to Miami.
Yeah. You know. So I don't know why public education would be harmful.
The other thing is that you have interviewed different scientists that are interested in Oxitec and frustrated by them. Can you talk about what you were discovering when you were talking with them and some of their names and who they were?
Well, actually, I've only interviewed policymakers.
Mm-hmm.
And so the policy behind it is that Oxitec has not brought in peer reviews, and usually it's very standard to bring in peer reviews so that if you have something good and you know it's good, you're going to bring you're not going to have a problem with another scientist looking at it. So that's kind of what the policymakers are saying. One of the main ones is Eric Hoffman from Friends of the Earth, who's really been proactive on this because of the fact that Oxitec has been moving under the radar, and that this could be a human rights violation, in the fact that they even changed their campaign, that they were saying they're only releasing males to now they're they're only releasing sterile males, and they had to change it to these males can reproduce, but their offsprings don't make it to full adulthood. A percentage makes it to full adulthood, because I mean the sterile was an absolute false statement. They are not sterile. They do produce offspring, which sterile means they don't produce offspring. They just produce offspring that can't mature, and then after some evidence came back that they do mature, they don't produce 100% offspring. That, you know, it was just very much kind of sitting in this limbo of...
Yeah, that's like the 3.5%.
Yeah, 3.5%. How many mosquitoes are being released? Well, some people say 5,000, some people say 10,000.
And what about the
3 million?
ones that bite you, the females?
The females, that's the big deal. So the females have a novel protein, which there's been absolutely no research done on this. The novel protein makes them susceptible to or dependent on tetracycline, which really interesting here. And I asked Luke Alfie the one question he never been asked before is, what happens if one of these females who is dependent on tetracycline bites a girl who in our society we use tetracycline to fight acne, and many girls or boys are on a high dose of tetracycline to combat acne for long periods of time, which makes it very potent in their blood, which might change the dynamics of this female mosquito. No research has been done on that.
I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Also, it is found all over the place in nature. We make it, we produce it, so they have access to it, the mosquitoes.
We use tetracycline a lot in our sewage control, in our water purification, in feeding our crops, in pesticides. Tetracycline is really highly used in America, and maybe not in the Cayman Islands, and probably not in Malaysia. Mm-hmm. So those test results are probably not going to be the same as Key West, which maybe there is an important reason to do some sort of research here on that, because if this ever does come to America, then we do need to know how it affects an area that is highly based off of tetracycline.
But with even though they're not migratory, supposedly they only travel 2 miles, we do know that a wind can blow them quite large distances. So there's no way really to test them here without releasing them.
Yes.
And once they're released, we can't take them back.
It's an open field test. So that means that this happens in the wild. And then to catch them, they have these little buckets set
Yes.
out, and that's how they gauge their results, is through these buckets, that they can tell that they are successful by the amount of male mosquitoes that they recapture that have the fluorescent gene in it. The other thing that I learned that was very interesting to me is the fact that these mosquitoes are dormant in their eggs can survive for like 9 months, and most places that they breed are in like tires. And a lot of the reasons that we get these mosquitoes, the Aedes aegypti, from South America, is they come on shipping containers, and so they are in essence really migratory, because they come long distances because they can lay dormant for months, which means that wherever they lay an egg, in a car, you say, until it rains, they can go all the way to California before hatching. So we don't really know of any control area that this could possibly be contained to other than a laboratory.
And then to do that, probably it would be nice to have a non-objective scientific community setting up the tests.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what is this what you would be saying, that this is your findings as a documentary sleuth?
Yeah, again, I'm not a scientist, but this is all the research that I've done, and by talking to everybody and grabbing information, I do think mosquito control is very important. I'm not for pesticides.
I don't think anybody
I
is.
don't think anybody is. I think those are the options that we have right now. That's the cards been dealt. On the other hand, the most important thing that I read that really gets me, Luke Alfie does a vector control research paper, and in it says that through successful suppression of mosquitoes, we will actually elevate the level of humans' inability to fight diseases, because we will no longer have the continuous vaccination that mosquitoes do provide. So
that's an interesting
it's
thought.
the most
because,
interesting thing I read.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, thank you for coming
Well, thank
here
you.
and being a subject in your own and a star in your own production.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.